ESPN's Champ Week is in full swing from Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. One final spot in the championship of the Conference USA women's bracket up for grabs. It's either going to be Western Kentucky and the Hilltoppers or UTSA, the 6th seed. And the player of the year, Jordan Jenkins, searching for a spot in the title game and a date with Middle Tennessee. They held on over 4-seed UTEP just a couple moments ago. 68-62 from Frisco, Texas, as Middle Tennessee heads to their 13th title game in 18 years under Rick Insell. Western Kentucky has quite the tournament resume as well. They'll look to try and join Middle Tennessee in the title game tomorrow afternoon. Alongside Chris Bykowski, I'm Kyle Yeomans. The final game of the day here from Frisco, Texas, and we've got a dandy as Jordan Jenkins, player of the year for UTEP and for the Conference USA against Western Kentucky. Really an unsung team in the preseason poll. They've proved some doubters wrong this season.
And what Greg Collins was able to do, and also Karen Aston. I think either one of these teams, if they would have been voted as Coach of the Year, it'd be hard to argue considering the expectations. But with UTSA gaining the services of Jenkins, a transfer from Southern California, ended up being just a tremendous player in this league. And she was on display yesterday with a team leading 22 points, hit the game-tying shot with 92 seconds to go. What a performance to lift her squad into this semifinal round, now 80 minutes away from a spot in the big dance. On the other side, the sophomore from Austin, Texas, Jalen Foster, a member of the CUSA all-defensive team. She can get it done on offense as well. 9.4 points per game, tied for the team lead with 14 points in Western Kentucky's quarterfinal win against UAB.
Currently leads WKU in rebounds and in steals. She's top 13 in the conference in rebounding and 4th in steals in the conference. There's Greg Collins in the huddle, his 5th year with the program. 85 wins with Western Kentucky. They have 18 this season, 18-12. They'll wear the home whites going from right to left on the screen. UTSA with 13 wins. It's already a 6-win improvement from a year ago, including a 6th spot in the standings after they were picked to finish 9th in the preseason poll. We are underway in Frisco, Texas. It's the 2nd semifinal of the Conference USA Championships, UTSA and Western Kentucky. Can't wait for this matchup. Both teams very much so undersung coming into the year. Lady Toppers got here by holding off UAB, the 10th seed in the quarterfinals, 71-67. That was a game that featured 16 lead changes and 7 ties. And WKU held on down the stretch. They'll go straight down low as Pitts has this one rejected over the top, as Alyssa Coleman has her first rejection. Taking a look at the UTSA starting 5.
Coleman had a double-double, her 4th of the season in the quarterfinal round, highlighting that UTSA starting 5.
Haley Atwood, who only had 2 points in their quarterfinal win, a 15-point comeback against Rice, and she starts the scoring for the Roadrunners. There's the WKU starting 5, as we highlighted with Foster. But really, there's 4 or 5 players that could go for double figures any given night on this entire Hilltoppers roster.
Well, Casey Hayes, the freshman for WKU, had a game-high 31 points the first time these teams got together.
Here's Hayes working into the paint. Her right side floater is good. All freshmen honors. 14 points, 4 assists, and a rebound in the win against UAB. Both teams having some contribution early on from unsung heroes. Hayes, the freshman, Haley Atwood, the senior for UTSA, each of the first 2 buckets in the early going. Here's Sydney Love, another freshman. She had 13 points. 12 of those were in the second half of that game in the quarterfinals. This time she takes a strong take to the rim. And again, Atwood fighting for the rebound underneath. That's really been one of the go-to identity pieces of this UTSA team. They fight for the offensive board underneath Karen Aston. And just her 2nd year, what a turnaround she's had, already up to 20 wins.
300th career victory coming earlier this season against North Texas, previously at Charlotte, UNT, and with the Texas Lady Longhorns.
One of the hottest teams coming into the tournament. They've now won 6 straight after starting their conference slate with only 5 wins and 11 losses. There's the first bucket for the Player of the Year and Newcomer of the Year. We can't forget that title as well for Jordan Jenkins. She wrapped up both of those when the award honors came down earlier this week.
Do they even have to vote on Newcomer of the Year? I think if you're Player of the Year and you're a newcomer, don't even worry about it. We don't need to count those ballots.
You could maybe talk about a freshman, but anybody anywhere near Jordan Jenkins, that would be a surprise to me because she has taken over this league ever since her transfer from USC. She joined her teammate, and used to be a Trojan as well, and Kira White. White's pass cross court, setting up this offensive attack for UAB. Off the miss, it's tipped out of bounds by Western Kentucky, led by 5th-year head coach Greg Collins. Took over back in 2018, went 18-12 a year ago. They're 18-12 again this year, but a chance to go to the conference title game on the line tonight.
5 seasons as an assistant in Bowling Green before getting the top job. Before that, got some great education at Arkansas, Louisville, and in the WNBA with the Liberty.
That's a pretty good resume. 1, 2, 3, 4 punch for Greg Collins. It hasn't been easy for Western Kentucky over these last few years. They've had their ups and downs, especially right around the COVID-19 season and a year that was really affected by the pandemic. This Western Kentucky team was hit hard, but they have bounced back in a big way here in 2023. Jump stop underneath, high off the glass as Hayes misses this one. Western Kentucky struggling from the field early. White outside to Love. And Sydney Love will work back around the perimeter. Onto the elbow. Jenkins will roll that top to bottom speed. She has it. Missed the shot, but it's Coleman that works off the boards. And finally, Western Kentucky with a stop after a couple extra opportunity. Outside shot, Maya Meredith. Her first field goal attempt is no good. UTSA with numbers. But not for long. Jordan Jenkins called for the charge. Second foul in as many possessions for UTSA, and Jenkins may have to take a seat.
Spotlight player versus spotlight player violence there as Foster hit the deck, taking contact from Jenkins.
Jenkins got in foul trouble early in that matchup against Rice. Because of that, the Owls took a sizable advantage, up by 15 at one point in the second quarter. She was really negated until the fourth. Finally came back in, and then it changed the entire complexion of the game. Long three. Hayes pulls the trigger. It rims out, and Coleman cannot secure the board. That opens the door for Maya Meredith.
Meredith tore her ACL against Old Dominion last season, had to work her way back and change her game significantly. Still a big contributor.
First made an appearance following that injury in November of 22, November 21st to be exact, against Miami. Rebound for Coleman, but she threw it away right to Hayes. Hayes with a head of steam, spins her way through a pair of Roadrunners, and she lays it in for a WKU lead.
Pretty move for the 2 for Hayes. Part of an amazing basketball family. 3 sisters right now playing at Mississippi State. She's carved her own path.
Take a look at this move from the freshman. Doesn't look like a freshman on this, does she?
Not at all. And that, again, goes to the fact that the competition just in her household alone, the amount of education she got in the game, and a big impact player as a rookie.
Member of the Conference USA all-defensive team. And, of course, the Hayes sisters made a name for themselves at Middle Tennessee, who awaits the winner of this matchup before transferring to the SEC. Tight window underneath to Alyssa Coleman. Coleman holds on. Last second shot. Shot clock violation. Turnover back to the Hilltoppers. Gives us an opportunity to check in with the third member of our crew, Ashley Pickle.
Hey guys, you were talking about Hayes, and especially with her sisters, Aslan, Alicia, and Anastasia all transferring over to Mississippi State. It was actually kind of a shock when then Asia didn't want to go to Mississippi State, and she said, man, I've always been the youngest sister. There's always been pressure on me to be able to be an unbelievable basketball player. She goes, I want to go carve my own path, and Greg Collins will be the first to tell you that she has come in her freshman year and immediately made an impact, and maybe that pressure from her sisters has helped a little bit to get her started here.
Thank you very much, Ashley. We'll hear from her throughout the night, and she brings up a great point. If you're the little sister, you want to carve your own path. You want to make a name for yourself. Hayes doing that in the same building that her sisters did so earlier in their career. We're tied at 6 in the early going in Frisco. The Conference USA Men's and Women's Championships is brought to you by Total Care, where lives are transformed. Lives being transformed by punching their ticket to the big dance in the NCAA tournament. March Madness getting underway with Selection Sunday. And then it's a busy month of basketball. We've already been in a busy month of basketball. What are you talking about? This is game 8 in 2 days for this venue. And take a look at some of the teams that have already punched their tickets. We saw some of those flash up on the screen, including Iowa that won the Big Ten. Look at South Carolina, one of the top teams in the country, just rolling along like they have for so long, and then more tickets being punched tomorrow, including Conference USA.
Always love the first time entrance into the big dance. Such a cool thing in program history. Shout out one more time to my undergrad alma mater, Southeastern Louisiana, coached by Hammond, Louisiana native Ayla Gazzardo, into the dance after winning the Southland Championship.
What a phenomenal story. Some of those next level programs that have just never made it to the big dance, and now they finally get an opportunity to do so. Sydney Love nearly had the possession, but a bad pass from White. Gives it back to WKU. That's already turnover number 5 for UTSA, yet they only trail by 2. Step back triple. Alexis Mead, and her first field goal attempt is off the mark. 4 points from Hayes, 2 from Meredith. And then Karis Allen, who checked in for her first couple minutes, had a bucket off the bench for Coach Collins. The Lady Toppers, the 2 seed in Conference USA. Only 4 non-conference wins, but they racked up 14 inside the league brackets. Turnaround for Coleman. Off the mark, back iron, and it settles with Meredith. Free throw line extended for Hayes. Picked up the dribble. Now she'll drive. Splitting again. Had it blocked from behind. Deborah Wakama got a hand on it. Linton, Euro step. Lofter in the lane, and it's too strong.
Like the move, just couldn't quite execute the finish.
UTSA, one of their last 8 from the field. 5 turnovers to start. Long 3, in and out it goes. Western Kentucky has a window of opportunity here with the struggles offensively for UTSA, yet they have their own offensive struggles to worry about.
Now, when you can't capitalize, something you got to get very frustrated about. How about that rebounding advantage so far? Plus 10 on the UTSA side, yet they trail by 2.
This is a matchup that favors the Roadrunners. Long 3, off balance from Deborah Wakama. Had to work to her right just to find a window, and then she hits it off the bank shot.
The bank is open on Friday night in Frisco.
Late Friday night as we just passed 8 o'clock Central Time.
Yeah, we had to wait a little bit for this one. About 45 minutes behind the original start time. The first game of 4 on the day went very long. Made us adjust a bit.
That was a Florida Atlantic men semifinal win over Middle Tennessee, and then that was followed up by UAB, the 3 seed, taking down 2 seed North Texas. Kick into the corner, another one for Wakama. No good, offensive board, put back good, and the foul for Alyssa Coleman. She has been so active in the paint, and she continues that hot streak.
Coleman had a double-double the last time these teams got together, 13 points and 11 rebounds, and here you're going to head to the free throw line. to add one more. And Western Kentucky, after that hoop and the harm, Greg Collins calls for a line change. 5 substitutions for the Lady Coppers.
Looks like a hockey match, having everybody check in. Full-fledged substitutions, UTSA up by 4. Western Kentucky won both of these meetings in the regular season, but they were both by single digits. 73-63 back on February 2nd. And then on January 7th, it was 77-69. In the early going here, despite UTSA struggling to hit some shots from the field, their size advantage has been showing because they have Alyssa Coleman and Jordan Jenkins, two of the better rebounders in the conference. Even Kira White, who's probably a top 5 rebounding guard in Conference USA. Gudadaro lost it, got it back. Sydney Love running out of time, just 3 to shoot, and she missed the basket that time. Under a minute to play in the first, and another turnover off the air ball.
Talk about somebody who has not been afraid on this big stage. Sydney Love, a rough shot there, but an amazing week so far. 20 points Wednesday, 13 yesterday.
Took her a little to get going yesterday, but when UTSA needed it most, she came through. This one underneath to Jalen Foster. Foster was 0 of 2 from the field. That won't count as a field goal try as she gets hacked in the process, but a chance for her first points of the night. One of the more interesting things about the Austin, Texas native in Foster, who does have family and friends in town to watch her Hilltoppers, she didn't play basketball, Chris, until her sophomore year of high school. Yet, as just a sophomore now at the collegiate level, so less than 4 years after she began playing basketball, she does the little things right. Rebounds, steals, and she can score the basketball a little bit as well, and she knocks down both free throws.
You know, I believe we had that same type of story yesterday with Louisiana Tech and Annalore Robertson, somebody who didn't start playing organized hoops until very late in their academic career, and that leads to somebody who is not burned out at this point. A lot of these student athletes have been playing travel ball since early elementary school. That is a lot of games, a lot of hours logged in a gym, and sometimes you get to this point and maybe you're a little tired. Maybe you don't have that fire every day.
That is not the case about the student athletes on the floor as we speak. This one off the mark there from Kira White. WKU a chance to settle in, possibly tie or take the lead on this possession to end the first quarter. They'll hand it to Savori. Long 3, and she drills it with a hand in her face. The first 3-point make, and she has a steal. Chance for another basket, but she ran out of time. And she even points to herself, says, my bad. No, it's okay. It's okay, Hope Savori. You just knocked down a big-time 3 to give your team the lead heading into the second quarter. 1-point game in Frisco. It's the second semifinal. One final spot in the championship game on the line between the Roadrunners and the Toppers. We're just getting started at the Ford Center. Western Kentucky, one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the country. They like to rely on the deep ball. Hope Savori gives the Hilltoppers their first of the game. Just 1 of 7 to start, but throughout the season, Coach Greg Collins and company, this has really been an identity for them since he took over, and that has continued into 2023.
Well, Savori, the co-freshman of the year back in 2021, changed her positions up, went from point guard to shooting guard, has really embraced that role and does not have fear to throw up big shots.
She goes right down the middle of the lane that time, working to the left, and then finishes with the left hand to put Western Kentucky up by 3. Believe it or not, now that we're into the second quarter, this is the largest lead that WKU has had. UTSA, not much larger of a lead. They led by 4 at one point. We've been separated by 2 possessions for all of this game, and most of the time it's been by 1 possession. As this one rims out, Savori on the offensive board had it rejected. Nice job by Linton staying with it defensively. Long pass ahead, Coleman, but they call it off with an offensive foul away from the basketball.
Yeah, that'll go against Maya Litton, the freshman from Duncanville, Texas, just south of Dallas. Big foul away from the ball. She keeps her hands to herself, and UTSA is within one. Said remains a 3-point deficit for the runners.
Faustino with the crossover, driving on Love. Has to find an outlet pass, and she does. It's Jalen Foster. Her first make from the field pushes the Western Kentucky lead to 5.
She can find her way to the rim. Nice look. Get to her on the bounce pass.
Love nearly coughed it up. Kira White comes in to save the day. Just over a minute and a half into this second period. Love navigates all the way inside for the lay-in and the deuce. UTSA spreading the love. 6 different players have scored for the Roadrunners. Kira White and Gudadaro are the only 2 that have seen time for UTSA and not found the bottom of the net. Kick outside for Sydney Love. Now she goes inside the perimeter and drills this one. The long 2 cuts the lead to 1.
Love, a great score on 3 different levels here, pulling up from inside the 3-point line. Knock it down. Runners within a single point of the toppers.
This one from range. Gilvin off the mark. Linton easily corrals the board. A little extra pressure following the rebound as Foster presses on Love, and she poked it away. White again there to clean up a loose basketball. Second time in the quarter we've seen something very similar and in the same area of the floor. Love. Back to White with 8 to shoot. Guarded closely by Foster. Got it to Coleman, who's fouled in the short corner. Chris, you can see in the early going, Jalen Foster, even though there's a foul called in this possession, she has been a tough defender against UTSA. She was named to the all-conference defensive team for a reason, but just her active hands and her ability to stay in the hip pocket of a ball handler is pretty impressive here in the early going.
Top 5 in steals in Conference USA, and that's when it's going to take this aggressive nature on defense, try to wear down this UTSA team that had such a hard-fought battle really each of the last 2 days. I was thinking more about yesterday against Rice, but the day before it took a shot as the time expired to beat FAU. This team has been through a grind through the first 2.
Had to beat FAU, the 11th seed, down to the wire. Went down to the final possession, as Chris just said. Then they found themselves down by 15 against Rice yesterday. And now, in a heated battle in the middle of the second quarter, still a long way to go as Atwood misses her first free throw attempt of 2. By the way, on this trip down the floor, 3 different fouls against Western Kentucky. The first one was on Foster, second one on Hayes, the third one was on Meredith. Yet UTSA comes away with 0 points as Atwood misses both free throws.
The Western Kentucky Spirit section is brutal.
Why is that?
You're hearing in those chants after each missed free throws, you let your own team down.
They're playing
and then after the second one, you let your own team down again.
Playing the guilt trip game. Student section, bands, all in attendance here in Frisco. Provides for a great atmosphere. Still a good crowd on hand despite the late start time. This one Karam's off wide, off the back iron. Another 3-point try off the mark for Western Kentucky. They're still attempting the threes. They're just not going in. 1 of 10 from downtown.
This building never more full than it was this afternoon for the second men's semifinal, with North Texas in the building. The easiest trip for any American ball club. Ton of green, but the Green of UAB coming out on top in that one. We'll see FAU take on those Blazers tomorrow in the men's championship. Still trying to determine the women's final round matchup. Middle Tennessee and one of these two clubs.
WKU back outside, wide open look for Foster. She's going to knock that one down more often than not. At 14-8 in the quarterfinal win, she already has 7 in this one.
At 12-8 the last time the toppers and the runners got together, consistently really good. She was a volume shooter the last time these two teams played. Put it up 13 times.
White threads the needle for Atwood on the backdoor cut. A redemption trip for Atwood after she missed the 2 free throws. Easy lay-in. Now it's another kick back outside. Blevins working for Hayes. Hayes off the dribble. She'll take the screen all the way to the cup. Easy finish for the freshman.
Such a quick burst from her. Really, really impressive.
Timeout by Karen Aston. She didn't like the defensive look her ball club gave Hayes as she drove to the rim. 5.5 to play in the second quarter. Western Kentucky leading this one by 4. They've relied on the three-point ball all season long. They're relying on the freshman and Hayes tonight. The 2023 Conference USA Men's and Women's Basketball Championships is presented by Total Care. In my opinion, the top mascot in collegiate athletics, Big Red, has made his way to Frisco. Jordan Jenkins has had plenty of success in Frisco already, 20 points per game, but tonight only 2. She's been on the floor for a limited amount of time because of some foul trouble. Only 4 minutes for Jenkins as she's picked up 2 early fouls. She reinserted into the game right at the end of the first quarter, but has not seen the floor here in the second frame.
Yeah, they'll need her to step up, but in the first 2 matchups between these teams, Jenkins also relatively quiet. 6 points in the opening get-together, 14 in the second. Western Kentucky won both of those. Toppers 77-69 in Bowling Green, and then 73-67 in San Antonio.
Of course, it's always different come tournament time, but sometimes if your team has a blueprint on how to slow down a star, that will carry to the postseason. Nobody's been able to slow down Foster. Got loose on the cut, left-hand side, takes the pass in stride. She's got 9 in the first half.
We saw that in our opening game as far as UTEP having a formula for Wheeler. Every game they played this season, 1 point against them, 3, and then 1 again today. Maybe some of the same against Jenkins. Again, she got into double figures last time. It's not like she was completely shut down, but below her season average.
Kira White still looking for her first points to Sydney Love. Tight windowed pass down low to Queen Olabo. She misses the floater on the left low block. Hayes will bring it past the Conference USA logo at midcourt. Hayes into the corner, one-handed snag for Meade. Kept it in bounds. Maya Meredith from downtown, and she hits it. The sophomore from Kentucky at 7 in the first half. That's her first triple.
Last season's Conference USA Freshman of the Year, coming back from injury. Became a more cerebral player, according to Greg Collins.
Love looking for the screen. Goes behind the back and now splits a couple defenders. What a move from the freshman to get inside.
She has certainly looked comfortable here in Frisco. First time on this big stage as a rookie.
We've seen some freshmen shine throughout the tournament. A couple on both sides with Sydney Love, Hayes. for the Western Kentucky side. Here goes Love again. UTSA trailing by 9. It's the largest lead for Western Kentucky. Trying to go back to the Conference USA semifinals. And a foul in the process. They will not count the bucket, I believe. UTSA wants them to count the bucket. They will. And one opportunity for Sydney Love.
Delayed call, and Greg Collins shocked, to say the least. You saw the Roadrunner student athletes kind of willing it to be called, and it comes from Angelica Suffren. She's with Meta Christensen and Iffy Seals on today's crew.
I don't know if you could call that continuation. Of course, none of that at the collegiate game, only at the professional level. That was about as close to continuation as possible, as Love will take full advantage, hitting the free throw, completing the three-point play. But Western Kentucky has been red hot on this end of the floor. They've made their last 5. Left side drive for Hayes, cut off in the low block. Back up top, three-point try. This one off and to the right for Allen. Again, no Jordan Jenkins at the moment with 2 personal fouls. UTSA trying to put together a run to at least bring it within a few possessions prior to her coming back in. That will help. Found Haley Atwood underneath. She has 6 early points and a resurgence from what she had in yesterday's outing.
Good to see you shots dropping for her. Sometimes just doesn't have the touch, finds ways to affect the game in other directions, but this time shots falling.
Another takeaway for UTSA, nearly a block for Western Kentucky. Sydney Love corrals it. Roadrunners with the basketball. WKU has made 5 of their last 6 as this one's poked away by Foster, and it'll result in a foul prior to the shot attempt. The point I was about to make is Western Kentucky has made 5 of their last 6, but they've turned the ball over so much over these last few possessions that UTSA has closed the gap off a pair of those takeaways.
It'll only be a 4-point game with 96 seconds remaining until the break. Been impressed by aspects of both of these teams' games, and Foster most recently taking advantage of that brief moment of unawareness for UTSA. And saw the lull, saw her brief moment of opportunity, and knocked the rock free.
She only hits 1 of the 2 free throws as a result of the turnover. There's the turnover category, very much so in favor of Western Kentucky. Now UTSA with numbers. 2-handed shovel pass underneath. Maya Linton finishes through the foul, and an and-one opportunity to try and cut it to 2.
Linton didn't play in the regular season finale for UTSA. Found her way into the tournament for 2 points in round 1, 2 in the quarterfinals, and now up to 4 here in the semifinal.
3-point play connects for Linton. Freshman from Duncanville, Texas. A hotbed for high school talent. Not too far from where we are here in Frisco. 1 possession ball game in the final minute and 10 seconds of the first half. Hayes thought about the drive. Instead, she was cut off. This one taken away, put on the floor. Madison Cockrell, another Dallas native, got on top of it. Possession arrow in favor of UTSA. All of a sudden, the defense ramping up for the Roadrunners.
A really nice job. Madison Cockrell, the product of Bishop Lynch High School, prestigious private institution. Linton from the public school, Duncanville, so they didn't clash in league action, but certainly saw a lot of each other in club ball. Now teammates in San Antonio.
Madison Cockrell looking for the 3 in the lead, not this time. Good crash on the boards by Faustino. 40 seconds left. Underneath, swatted away by Maya Linton. Into the front row with an emphatic block.
Well, the numbers aren't huge. 5 points, 3 rebounds, but the loudest moment of this second quarter comes on her second block. Her team within two, the Roadrunners making noise, trying to punch their ticket into the championship final as a 6th seed.
What a story that would be for Karen Aston. Either one of these teams could have really put up a fight when saying that they were undersung early in the season. Western Kentucky picked to finish in the bottom 4 of the conference, whereas UTSA was picked to finish 9th. Neither team was expected to do much, but here they are with a spot on the title game on the line. Kira White with an 8-second difference between shot clock and game clock. The USC transfer works to the left of Gilvin. Cross-court pass, the vision to find Atwood. Atwood now into the corner for Cockrell. No, in and out it goes. Linton, second chance points. Coming in clutch down the stretch of the second quarter for UTSA. Final opportunity for Western Kentucky. It's Faustino, split a couple defenders, and an easy left-handed lay-in. That'll do it for the first 2 frames in an exciting first half of action. Western Kentucky will hold on to a 4-point lead into the break on the strength of 10 points from Jalen Foster.
Yeah, really good first two quarters for the sophomore from Austin, Texas. Have to be happy if you're Greg Collins with your ball club, but only a 4-point advantage over the 6th seed, a team that has this renewed confidence, smelling upset with just 20 minutes to go.
Halftime in Frisco, 4-point game between Western Kentucky and UTSA. One final spot in the title game on the line. We'll have halftime coverage and look at Middle Tennessee, how they got to the championship game when we return. It's all about the road to Texas. This year, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 will travel through Seattle and Greenville, South Carolina, and then it's on to Dallas. The 2023 Women's Final Four is right here in North Texas on March 31st with the National Championship on April 2nd. Of course, the women's bracket will be revealed on Sunday on ESPN. Each game of the tournament will be available on ESPN networks and on the ESPN app. These are the teams that are already going to be a part of the field of 68 and clinch the bid into the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Each of these 2 teams have their shot still alive. UTSA down by 4 at halftime. They may have to rely on the freshman Sydney Love in her 9 points, a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, she has been really good so far in this tournament. Exploded for 20 points on Wednesday in the first round against FAU, then 13 on Thursday against Rice. They will need her to come up big again in the final 20 minutes.
Western Kentucky controlled the paint in that first half. They had 20 paint points, and a lot of that was actually from the guard play driving inside.
Yeah, Western Kentucky 20-18 in that points in the paint battle. Some of it atypical. They're not forcing it in to bigs. They really don't have a ton of size to play with down there, so instead it's drives to the hoop. And Jordan Jenkins, the player of the year in this conference, held to just 2 points so far, largely because she's only played 4 minutes of this basketball game. We'll see how much she's able to get in on the action in these final 2 quarters of play. Holding on to 2 personal fouls right now. Same case with a pair of her teammates, Love and Coleman.
She's on the floor at the moment, down in the paint for UTSA. Now she tries to close out on the hot shooter outside in Hayes. Her 3-point try off the mark as we are underway here in the second half. Western Kentucky up by 4 at the break. Alongside Chris Mikoski, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We have Ashley Pickle down on the sideline as well. Western Kentucky in that second quarter had 7 different players scoring, which is definitely a leg up for anybody in tournament time. Anytime you can have that sort of depth to your ball club, it bodes well for a long run. Can they hold on to a slim lead? That one into the corner for Hayes. Work back up top for Foster. Western Kentucky 3 of 14 from three-point land, making 3 of 15 after the block on UTSA. With the whistle, let's check in with Ashley Pickle.
Always is, but she says we have to play more disciplined defense. She said their defense, WKU's, is very chaotic in the way that they play, and she thinks that it rubbed off a little bit on them. She said her main focus was we have to be more productive in the paint. On the other side, for Greg Collins and his Western Kentucky squad, he said we've got to get better on the boards. This was a big point he emphasized to us before this game ever even started. But the other thing, he goes, we were lucky to get Jenkins in a little bit of foul trouble there. She's going to come back, and I quote, like a house on fire. So you better watch out for her.
Thank you very much, Ashley, on the sideline doing phenomenal work as always. And he's right. The rebounding category in favor of UTSA, +8. Jenkins with 2 fouls on the floor. Hasn't scored yet, but it probably won't take long.
They actually accomplished a rare feat in broadcasting last couple of days, doing sideline reporting from 2 courts at once, down to just 1 today.
It's part of what makes the Conference USA tournament so special. This is technically Court A. Now it's Court O, as in only, because Court B has been torn down on the other side of the curtain. At early points in the early days of this tournament, first and second round action played simultaneously on Court A and B. And we have an injury timeout. Alexis Mee, credit to her. She twisted an ankle as she was running back on defense, tried to fight through it and stay on the floor, but kept herself up for long enough for the timeout to be called. Here is the look. Those are the 2 courts. Simultaneous action split by only the curtain in the middle of the Ford Center. A little time lapse of how things were built. Not the exact same on the tear down because one court is already gone.
I asked if we had the time lapse of the teardown last night of Court B. The cameras did not keep rolling, so just have to imagine we could play that in reverse, although I guess in that case Court A would be getting torn up as well, so it wouldn't work exactly.
I like the creative freedom, though. Just trying to figure out a way to do it. Maybe you cut the video, you crop it a little bit, make it work.
Done more interesting things than that in Photoshop. You could make it work, sure.
Exactly. That one nearly a turnover for UTSA. Actually a collision between teammates prior to it being tipped out of bounds by Western Kentucky. Roadrunners with the basketball. Both teams still looking for their first score of the third quarter. Not going to happen here as Atwood's 3-pointer is off the back iron. Hayes will drive baseline. Back into the paint. Wide open look on the floater for Meredith. 7 points for the sophomore out of Newport, Kentucky.
Well, Meredith ends up getting the ball in her hands all alone. You typically think of her as somebody who drives the hoop when she can get a little bit of space down low, separate from defenders in the paint. Quick drop off, quick release for a bucket.
Having some words exchanged underneath between Jordan Jenkins and Maya Meredith. It'll result in a foul away from the basketball here, going back to UTSA. Karen Aston and Coach Greg Collins having words with their team, trying to negate that before anything gets into a technical foul territory. One of our officials, Iffy Seals, actually exchanged words with both parties, trying to make sure everything under control. Paint feed underneath. Had it tipped away from Foster. She got it back. Now she'll drive. Bucket good, and the foul for Jalen Foster.
Foster with a pass through the legs of Coleman. Eventually recovers and able to catch UTSA after they started running back the other direction. And White came back into the picture and drew the foul.
And at that point, I think as a coach, they're going to look at Kira White and say, go up and at least challenge the shot. Don't shy away from the contact, because it made for an easier make, and the foul was called regardless for Foster.
Shy away, got under it, and not a very smart play.
6.5 minutes remaining in the third. UTSA still scoreless in the period. 9-point lead for WKU. Jenkins with the feed to White. The USC connection pays off on that trip. Both teammates with the Trojans last year. White played in 77 games, 22 starts with USC, where Jenkins led the Trojans in scoring last year with nearly 500 points in 35 starts. Both making their way to play for Karen Aston at UTSA. Corner three, short. Jenkins on the board. Here's Sydney Love. Weaving through the trees, finds Jenkins. Her fadeaway off the mark. The UTSA bench was ready to celebrate.
Yeah, reaching, just getting some hard luck there on the bounce, but Karen Aston and her student athletes and staff looking for something to cheer about. Don't have it here as Western Kentucky on the mark with Faustino, the junior Oregon State transfer.
Her first make of the night. Jenkins has this one tipped away. Foster got in there to break up the pass. First double-digit lead of the game for Western Kentucky. Corner three, trying to balloon it. Allen drills it. Karis Allen, the freshman from Missouri, makes it a 13-point Topper advantage.
She closed the regular season with a couple of huge performances, turning it on again here in tournament time.
White back to Love. Love will loft it down low. What a feed to Coleman, just over the outstretched fingertips of the WKU defense.
At the slightest bit downward, and we would have said that was an ill-advised pass, but ends up being perfect placement over the top.
UTSA breaking a bit of the Western Kentucky run, but they've still made 4 of their last 5 shots. Looking to add some more. Karis Allen can't miss from downtown. Swarmed by her teammates after 2 threes.
Well done, Faustino from Portugal, from downtown Frisco. The Toppers run it.
Western Kentucky lighting it up against UTSA at the moment from deep. They lead at 48-34 on Champ Week, and it's not out of the ordinary for this Toppers bunch. Most three-pointers made in program history, and this is a rich program history we're talking about with the Lady Toppers. They have always put up great numbers, but nothing quite like what they've done from three-point land this season.
And to be that far and away ahead of the second-ranked performance on that list, it starts to feel more and more with every shot made like a record that may never be broken in Bowling Green.
Been an impressive season for Greg Collins and company, trying to cap it off with a trip to the Conference USA title game. It would be their first appearance in a title game since 2018. This is appearance number 32 in a conference semifinal. They actually have a great record in semifinals, 23-9, trying to add win number 24. So we head into a timeout. They lead it big in Frisco. Western Kentucky up by 14 at the moment over UTSA with a spot in the title game on the line. Here are the last 7 champions of the Conference USA tournament. This is year number 6 of this event being in Frisco at the Star in Frisco. Middle Tennessee already in the title game, won it in 21 and in 16. Western Kentucky with a big lead here could go back to the title game for the first time since 2018, whenever they took down UAB 72-57 in the first ever tournament inside Ford Center.
I think that rivalry will be fierce when it's renewed tomorrow if it's Western Kentucky moving on to face Middle Tennessee. They do not like each other very much.
No doubt about that. The 100 miles of hate, having to travel a little bit more than 100 miles to get down to Frisco, right?
100 miles of hate plus a few hundred more.
UTSA trying to work their way back into this one. It's been a tough second half for them to this point, and there's another tangle. Offensive foul called on Jordan Jenkins. Jenkins frustrated, and that's her 3rd. With 3:26 left in the 3rd quarter. Again, in foul trouble for Karen Aston.
A first player to that figure on either side. You got 3 other road runners with 2 fouls apiece, and then a pair of toppers in that situation as well.
Right side pass opens things up for Savory. Cross court now for Allen, who has 8 points. Blocked on that try. Coleman elevated for the rejection. Kira White. Out of Coleman on the dribble handoff. She's got it at the elbow. Back outside for Wakama. In and out. Jenkins fighting for the board. She got it back, found it to Coleman, and they will call a foul. Speaking of the mileage from Frisco to each of the universities, Western Kentucky, 730 miles away. It's about a 10-hour drive straight down to Frisco. Murfreesboro, 695 miles away. About a 9-hour and 45-minute drive. About as equal as you could get to get down for the title game.
I think the highway is getting crowded with Lady Raider fans coming down here right now, and more Lady Topper fans will join them as well if this result holds. They've got time to get down. Yeah, it's the early game, the women's game tomorrow.
That was the 4th foul drawn against Jordan Jenkins. 2:46 left. This is similar to what we saw with UTSA yesterday in their quarterfinal win over Rice. Jenkins, with 4 fouls, has no choice but to sit down for the remainder of the 3rd and probably a good chunk of the 4th.
Well, when she picked up her 3rd, I figured we would see a substitution come to the table for the remainder of the quarter. Sub in for Jenkins, but she remained in, picked up another foul quickly. And now it's a question of when do you let her re-enter? You're already down by 14.
Make it 16. Savory hits the mid-range jumper. 50 points on the board for Western Kentucky, and they are not done yet. We enter the final 2 minutes of the 3rd period. Ashley Pickle talked about it earlier, that in her conversation with Coach Greg Collins for WKU, that getting Jenkins into foul trouble was a huge factor in their halftime lead. Now with her out of the game, you'd have to think she's a non-factor until under the 5-minute mark in the 4th quarter.
I already put it that Jenkins would eventually become a house of fire. And now with that 4th foul, it's going to be tough to light that match.
Might have to light it with Sydney Love. She Euro steps in the lane to work open through a couple topper defenders. Her lay-in ends the Western Kentucky run. Still a long way to go for UTSA. Teresa Faustino hands it off to Savory. Savory will just elect to take the 3. That's a heat check moment for Hope. 10 points for the junior from Louisville.
Well, yesterday, UTSA only scored 5 points in a single quarter against Rice. Still came back to win that game. Right now, just 6 in this 3rd quarter, but it is getting further and further away from them. Even if they can put together one of their best quarters of the season in the 4th, it may not be enough against these toppers.
19-6 is the 3rd quarter score alone, and we still have a whole minute remaining in the period. Western Kentucky even staying fresh by rotating some of the players deeper into the bench at the moment. Blevins checks in. Odith Betancourt checks in. Jordan Smith, for the first time tonight, is in the ball game. Rotating some pieces so that way that 4th quarter, you can avoid a run from UTSA. Coleman diving for the loose basketball. The effort was there, but it's out of bounds. Back to the Toppers with 43 seconds left.
You like the fight, you like bodies diving all over the floor. You're laying it all on the line with the season in question.
Semifinal number 2 in Frisco. Smith kicks it underneath for Betancourt. That one in and out it goes. Coleman secures the carom. Now here comes the freshman, Cockrell. Back out to a fellow fresh. and Sydney Love, and she'll work back up to the logo, whistle away from the basketball. Some frustration on Linton, but it's not going to be on Linton. It'll be on her counterpart.
No, she was going over to chat with Angelica Suffren, pleading for a call, and Angelica was, yeah, I hear you, we're going to call it. But, and all the while, I think, telling her, you need to say it, we see it.
Physicality has been there from WKU. It's really challenged UTSA throughout. Speaking of challenge, Faustina with the steal. She'll go for the lay-in, but she missed it. Savori with a second chance. She'll line up from three. And Coleman snags the board to bring the third quarter to an end. UTSA happy this frame is done. They were outscored by Western Kentucky 19-6 as we head to the fourth quarter.
Toppers look awfully strong, 10 minutes away from reaching the championship final in Frisco, where Middle Tennessee awaits.
'23 Conference USA Men's and Women's Basketball Championships presented by Total Care. As we go into the final quarter of the final semi. One more spot on the line in Champ Week on ESPN. Western Kentucky leading this one 53-36 thanks to a very strong third quarter of action. Alongside Chris Bykowski, I'm Kyle Yeomans, delighted to bring you this final frame of semifinal action in Frisco, Texas. Game 4 on the day. They had 8 games yesterday, 6 the day before, and then tomorrow, just the final games on the men's and women's side. Good start for UTSA as they lay it in, but still a long way to go for the Roadrunners if they hope to be a part of those title games. And a foul on Maya Linton.
They kick us out of these chairs tomorrow, bring in much more capable broadcasters. Well, no, you would belong on Championship Saturday.
How about that one? I was going to say the same about you. Probably Ashley Pickle as well.
We will be following for sure. So many tickets to be punched to the dance tomorrow.
Can't wait for the remainder of Champ Week on ESPN. Jordan Smith lining up a big-time three. The southpaw drills that one. Western Kentucky up by 18.
Until just now, Smith had not played for Western Kentucky since February 25th against UAB. Welcome to the tournament.
Big bucket to balloon this WKU lead. They are well in control of this one. They won both of the meetings with UTSA in the regular season. Now it's Smith again in the corner. Why not? The Philly native sending the Toppers into hysterics on the bench.
Before the last couple of minutes, she had 5 points on the entire season. 6 in the semifinal round.
UTSA gets a pair back. Do they continue to feed the hot hand, Chris? 2 of 2 from 3
Got
point.
to.
I think you have to, right? Find number 25 on the floor. Let's see what can happen. They'll drive instead. Blocked by Atwood, and it settles in with Madison Cockrell.
Come on, it's CUSA Jam. Ball's going to catch on fire. You get it back to Smith.
We are in Frisco, home to the National Video Game Museum.
That is true. That is true. And if an NBA Jam isn't there, it should be. But Smith, incredible. She scored 3 points against Florida Atlantic on January 16th, 2 against UAB February 25th. She had sat out from that point on, gets inserted in the fourth quarter of the conference semifinals.
If you're a basketball fan, seeing the bench react like that brings a smile to your face. Maybe outside of the UTSA Roadrunner fan out there, anybody else should enjoy what they just got to see. And it may not be done yet. Who knows? If I'm Smith, I'm waving for the basketball.
Rock.
Faustino directing traffic, looking for the screen. She does have Smith in the corner, but they go back up top.
And this player who has seen such limited action this year, now being guarded by the player of the year in Conference USA, Jordan Jenkins, is on her.
Pitts will drive. She tried to fit it in the corner, but it's intercepted by Atwood. Up ahead for Love. Can she keep it in bounds? She does to Jordan Jenkins for two. Big time effort from Sydney Love just to keep the play alive. That's only the second bucket for the player of the year in Conference USA. Jordan Jenkins still playing with 4 fouls.
That's the most obvious missing piece today for UTSA. When you have the player of the year on your roster and she only contributes 4 points, hard to overcome that.
Faustino, left side, and almost had it taken away. Back up top, three-pointer for Pitts. No good, and now it's fought for Love. No, she stepped out of bounds on the baseline. Or excuse me, the sideline. And she got teched up. So there's the effort from Love on one side. She just earned a technical. Had a couple choice words as she turned around, showed some frustration. Here's the call.
And back.
Watch this right here. That's it. That'll get you every time.
I couldn't read her lips, but I could see the expression on just how angry and disgusted she was in that moment, and clearly said something that Meta Christensen could not accept, had to issue the tech.
First free throw off the mark from Blevins. And at this point in the season, Chris, with so many games under the belt of these teams, it's not out of the ordinary to have officials that you have relationships with, that you know throughout the year, even as a freshman. And there's a teaching moment here for Karen Aston with her freshman in Sydney Love as she brings her to the bench.
So Love was running to her spot on the bench, and Aston really had to physically grab her, pull her back to let her know, I need to have a conversation with you right now before you go back to your seat. And Love's like, I got it. And finally, Aston let her go, and now she is sitting as close as she can to Coach Aston, probably trying to find her way back into this ballgame.
Cockrell has that one rejected over the top. Nice play defensively. Western Kentucky still making things tough. That's block number 4 on the night. This time it's Jordan Smith again. She can't just hit threes, Chris Mikoski. She can do it all. 6:30 left here in the ball game. Western Kentucky trying to put the finishing touches on their first title game appearance since 2018. Kira White cut off on the trap. Jenkins in the corner. That would cut in a lot to that deficit, but not this time. White still fighting for the basketball. Almost had it taken away by Madison Cockrell.
As you'd expect from a Roadrunner. Still flying around this basketball floor. They're not going down without a fight. No coyotes anywhere close by trying to catch them either.
Faustino fouled on the drive. She almost had the and one, and you could tell a little frustration on her side of things. Transfer from Oregon State, seeing some quality minutes in this one. Faustino, 5 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists to lead the team in that category. And the first free throw rattles in. Western Kentucky making free throws down the stretch as well. Every time they've gone to the line, they've really converted at a high clip. Now 8 of 10, that one off the mark. Make it 8 of 11. Keeps it at a 19-point topper advantage. Cockrell to Wakama in the paint, and that one off the bank and in. Mathematically, not impossible for UTSA to make a run. However, if they were to try and charge their way back into this, like they did in the quarterfinal against Rice, where they were down by 15, they would probably need to start that trek pretty soon.
Well, the circumstances are certainly different, with Jenkins having to lay off a bit with 4 fouls. and you've got a much more difficult opponent here today. Frankly, the Toppers have been on top of their game all day long, playing really solid defense as well. These points that UTSA needs to come up with are going to be difficult to attain.
Love back in the game following her technical. Had it taken away. Blevins into the corner. Wide open shot for Savory, but she missed it. There's Jenkins on the rebound and barely finds it to Love, who's now in trouble in the trap. All the way in the backcourt. They're going to have to hurry to get this across half court at all. And they didn't. 10-second violation and a stop for Greg Collins' bunch. He was pretty happy with the defensive effort on that one.
What I tell you, this WKU defense is not letting up. Playing well in the backcourt, forcing the violation. In 8 games that we've been together at this Conference USA tournament, I think that's the first backcourt violation that we've seen with a swarming defense despite the major advantage. That's the 20th turnover of the game committed by the Roadrunners.
That's probably the difference in this one, Chris, because you look at the points off turnovers as well. Just 4 for UTSA. So not only are they coughing it up, but Western Kentucky is making the Roadrunners pay. There's one ahead. It's now Kira White following the steal. Will miss the lay-in attempt. It's back to Jenkins underneath, and she got fouled. Smith with the hack, and now Jenkins will go to the free throw line for a pair. Western Kentucky just 4 minutes and 43 seconds away from heading to the title game. The Conference USA Men's and Women's Championships is brought to you by Total Care, where lives are transformed. Western Kentucky has pulled a magic trick in the second half. They've transformed this game into a shootout. 9 three-pointers, including 2 from Jordan Smith, and the bench loves it for the Hilltoppers. 43% shooting for WKU en route to a 61-44 advantage, and they are just 4 minutes and 43 seconds away from a date with Middle Tennessee in the title game.
Again, unless you're a Roadrunner fan, you have to love that reaction from the Topper bench. Jordan Smith came into this game having only scored 5 points on the entire season. And in the course of less than a minute, she hit 6 in this game, a pair of three-pointers. Wow.
Jordan Jenkins at the free throw line. Her first trip tonight for somebody who leads the country in field goal attempts, or excuse me, free throw attempts and free throw makes. She goes 1 of 2 at the line, only 5 points for the Conference USA Player of the Year. Again, still not out of reach at the moment, but getting quickly to that point for Western Kentucky to put this one officially on ice. Drive right-hand side by Blevins. She's cut off quickly by the Roadrunner defense. Work around to Faustino. She wants the 3 ball. 2 to shoot. Lost the handle. Didn't get it off in time before it's swatted by Jenkins. Shot clock violation, so it's UTSA basketball either way. Honestly, on a possession like that, the Roadrunners might have rather played with it because they might have had numbers back down the floor.
Very true, but you can't decline it. It's not the game that is usually played in this building.
Ford Center at the Star, home to the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters. Just on the other side of the wall that our fans sit on are the entire facilities, the offices of what they call America's Team. We are currently in their practice facility. This is a 12,000-person seating arrangement that they do practice in, training camp. They have events throughout the year, much like this one, where they had simultaneous court action throughout the week. One of the favorite events in Frisco throughout the calendar year.
Also a huge benefit to the young people of this city. Frisco Independent School District plays football and soccer in this building. We also saw the U.S. Army game. Some All-Americans in high school football coming through here this season.
Multi-purpose event center, and you can see that with the basketball side of things showing off in a tournament like this with Conference USA. Final 4 minutes. Western Kentucky closing in on their first title appearance since 2018. They won that title game on this floor in 2018, their most recent conference title. This one back outside. The three-pointer for Pitts off the mark. Another violation via the shot clock, and it's back to UTSA. For the Roadrunners, things just haven't gone right in this game, Chris. Shooting the rock, just 37%. They're 1 of 8 from downtown. That's a whopping 8% for UTSA. A team that's used to hitting the three at a high clip and used to having some success on the interior. It looked that way early, but then it came to a screeching halt.
Tell you, I appreciate what UTSA was able to accomplish in this tournament to get to this point. It kept us from having chalk in the semifinal round. You get an upstart, a 6 seed, finding their way into the Final Four. That's the kind of things you hope for, upsets and stories that are unexpected. UTSA getting to this point was one of those here this week. Ends up being the end of their road, but you look at the key portions of this roster of players who have eligibility left, who you hope to have back on campus next year for UTSA, and Karen Aston could have a very special ball club.
Just the work that she's done within 2 years. Many experts around the conference actually thought Karen Aston was very deserving of the Coach of the Year award.
Yes.
Picked to finish 9th in the conference, and last year just 3 wins. They went 3-14, but that was a 2-win improvement. The year prior to her showing up, they only had 1 win in league play. This year, 9 wins inside the conference brackets, and of course 2 wins in tournament play, working their way to the semifinal. They had the upset win yesterday over the Rice Owls to get to this point, so you can't take away the growth that UTSA has shown this season, even in a disappointing outing like this one in the semifinals. This is not what she had in mind for this outing specifically, but this season, I think you'll take the result for what the Roadrunners have shown.
Well, given her track record, what she did at the University of Texas, she was the Big 12 Coach of the Year, nearly won the national award back in 2017. And those connections that she has made in recruiting when she was at UT Austin have already paid off in San Antonio. It's going to continue to grow. This program is going to continue to get better. Now, Kira White is a San Antonio area product. She went to Judson High School. But Jordan Jenkins, she's from Washington.
Yeah.
So it was the previous connection she had with Karen Aston, because Aston had recruited Jenkins when she was with the Lady Longhorns. So rekindled that when she saw the name in the portal. You add in that personal bond with Kira White from USC, and that could lead to special things again next season for this Roadrunner Ball Club when they're both scheduled to return.
Yeah, both White and Jenkins, as she'll unload the 3 here, are juniors. Sydney Love, just a freshman. Alyssa Coleman, a redshirt sophomore. Lots of youth to return for UTSA, and of course in the day and age of the transfer portal, it makes things tough on coaches, but the way that Karen Aston is building things at UTSA, you want to be a part of it. Blevins hits back-to-back triples, pushes the lead back to 20. Despite the growth seen from UTSA this year, this night belongs to Western Kentucky.
And good to see Blevins getting involved in this last stanza here. She started the first 4 games of the season for the Lady Toppers, had 6 games scoring in double figures this season, but up until these last few minutes had been relatively silent. But now it's hit a couple of 3-pointers. Her point total is up to 9 on the evening through just 14 minutes of PT.
Lots of great minutes down the stretch here for players deep into the Western Kentucky bench. Brett Collins and company still building at Western Kentucky. They have not been to a title game since 2018. This would be their first championship game appearance under Coach Collins, and excited to do so with a chance to take down their bitter rival Middle Tennessee. The #1 seed versus the #2 seed, and having some fun tomorrow afternoon.
If you are anywhere within driving distance of Frisco, which at this time of night, I'd say pretty much anywhere is within driving distance within that Conference USA footprint, you can get here for this game, especially Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee fans. hit the road, grab a cup of coffee, find your way here, and enjoy this championship final tomorrow. 5:30 Eastern time for that women's final. Doubleheader followed by the men's final at 8:30 Eastern.
That's a 4:30 tip-off Central Time. That's not that early of a wake-up call if you think about it, Chris. You get going and get some breakfast on the road and have some fun.
I don't think you lose that hour of sleep overnight until Sunday morning, right?
Exactly, that's what I thought. Might as well make it worth it, right? UTSA still fouling, down by 15. They've actually closed the gap a little bit here, outscoring Western Kentucky 17-15 in the fourth quarter, but it was the third quarter that really was the difference for WKU. 19-6, they outscored the Roadrunners. One final substitution for Jordan Jenkins. And what about the sportsmanship from Western Kentucky here? Trying to give the credit where credit is due. They're asking their own fans to cheer for Jordan Jenkins as she makes her way off the floor for the final time this season. A player of the year in the conference for a reason. She was electrifying to watch for the Roadrunners.
And tears being shed on that Roadrunner bench. It's hard to take today. Tomorrow morning, though, I think she'll realize how special this year was for the Roadrunners, largely because of her amazing performance. So incredible to have her in San Antonio.
Bright future for the Roadrunners. Final possession for UTSA. Love back to Atwood. Cross-court pass. High off the glass, fought for by Wakama. They'll go back to Love as she'll drive inside. One final feed to Queen Olabo. 4 seconds left, and that will do it. For the 24th time in program history, the title game toppers are back for Western Kentucky. They'll take on Middle Tennessee in a shot for their 13th conference title. Tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 Central Time, 5:30 Eastern. Here from Frisco.
Couple of teams with incredible history in this sport going at it tomorrow. Great rivals. A lot of respect on each end. A lot of hate flowing from the fan base. It is going to be a lot of fun here at the Star tomorrow.
Western Kentucky holds a 12-11 all-time record in title games. See the stat there, 5th title game in the last 9 years. They made it to 8 semifinals from 2010 to 2019. They won 5 of those, and they win this one in 2023 to go to their first conference championship game with Greg Collins as head coach. He'll address his ball club and talk things over. Looking at that scoreboard, they took care of business in this one. It was a fun one with Jalen Foster leading the way for the Toppers.
Every bit as good as we hoped she would be today on this stage. 13 points, including a triple, brought down 4 rebounds, distributed a couple of assists, a couple of steals, only had 23 minutes of playing time tonight, but every moment that she was in, it was a net positive for Western Kentucky. And Greg Collins, 5th-year head coach for the Lady Toppers, has to be thrilled by what he saw from her.
Not a whole lot of celebration for Western Kentucky. They've got a game to catch tomorrow, a little bit of rest on the way for Greg Collins and company. He now joins our very own Ashley Pickle.
Coach, you knew defensively y'all were going to have to be on your game tonight going up against a UTSA team with the Conference Player of the Year. How proud are you of the way your team handled that side of the ball?
You know, she's a great player, Jordan, and so we've done a pretty good job all 3 games against her, and I'm really proud of how our young ladies just really buckled down and made sure they did what they had to do to guard her. I think she only got 2 field goals tonight, and on a player of that caliber, that's something right there, and we really battled hard on the boards. We're not a great rebounding team, but we battled hard every possession, and that was really the difference, is making sure that we weren't giving a lot of second chances, and we were guarding a great player like Jordan.
Up next, the 100 Miles of Hate is heading down here to Frisco, Texas. I know that that's a special game for your fans and for your program. What's the message to the team tonight?
Right now, we're going to celebrate this win. We're excited about getting a chance to play for a championship. We've talked all season about just getting in the championship game you can't win the championship unless you play for the championship. So I'm proud of these young ladies, how they played tonight, the resiliency. And we talked about the defense tonight, and we held them to 55 points. They had 36 points going into the fourth quarter. That's what I'm most proud of. We'll get ready tonight for Middle Tennessee tomorrow.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks.
It's a short turnaround for that matchup with Middle Tennessee, but the matchup is set on Championship Saturday in Conference USA from Frisco, Texas, and Ford Center at the Star. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. This is the matchup we've been waiting for.
One of 9 automatic bids that will be decided tomorrow in NCAA women's basketball. Middle Tennessee, number 25 team in the country, and their chief rival, WKU, meeting up. What more could you want at the Star?
Number 1 versus number 2. Tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 tip Central Time. Western Kentucky picked to finish 6th in Conference USA's preseason poll. They're going to the title game with a 70-55 win over UTSA. For Ashley Pickle and Chris Mikekoski and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Star in Frisco. All games airing on the ESPN networks are streaming live and archived on the ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.